Barracuda Piers. These docks provide safe mooring for the Thalassocratic Navy's principal squadrons, also known as the Crimson Fleet. To prevent sabotage, admittance to the area is forbidden to the general citizenry. However, on clear days, one may catch a glimpse of the Armada flagship, the Triumph, from atop one of Limsolaminsa's myriad spans. The Astalicia. Registered as a trade vessel hailing from foreign waters, this battle-scarred warship captained by the lord of the region's underworld, Hilfer, serves as a gathering place for brigands, cutthroats, and the purveyors of sundry other breeds of villainy. It is here that the city-state's many pirate crews find new recruits to join their ranks. Seasong Grotto. I am the waves that bear, I am the winds that guide. I am the evening stars, I am the morning sky. I am born of the sea, and there shall I die. Nestled within a shallow cavern situated to the south of Summerford Farms sits an ancient monolith upon which is carved this, the Sailor's Requiem. The Skylift. Once an endless expanse of flat, rocky meadows, Middle Lenosia is now severed atwain by a sheer cliff known as the Descent. To maintain overland trade routes from the easterly outposts of Aleport and Bronze Lake, Leminson engineers created the Skylift, a tower of wooden scaffolding outfitted with pulleys, winches, and lighter-than-air balloons. Lathagran East Road. When the Galadion fell victim to the Navigator's fury and ran aground on the southern shores of Vilbrand 700 years ago, it was her two helmsmen, Jean de Naval and Guy Lathagran, who were tasked with exploring the newfound island, the former heading east, the latter west. To this day, their routes still serve as Lenosia's two main thoroughfares. The Salt Strand. When struck by a fallen shard from Dalimud's outer shell, a massive amount of concentrated ether was released from just below the surface of the Rotano Sea, immediately fusing with and crystallizing the towering fount of saltwater which was expelled during the impact. City-state funded exploratory forays into the inner crater have all yet to return. Red Roosterstead. The farmers on the Red Roosterstead will rarely shy from testing their agricultural acumen on exotic crops or untested growing methods, and take pride in their willingness to sacrifice a harvest if it means a better yield an autumn hence. The plantation's name is said to be taken from the bloody cockfights held after nightfall by the gamekeeps. The Brewer's Beacon. This relatively new lighthouse was built soon after the Calamity claimed Swift Perch Tower to ensure safe passage for trade vessels carrying shipments of dark stouts and blonde barley wines out of Aleport. In addition, the Candlekeeps also keep watch for increasingly frequent rogue tidal waves caused by the stirrings of the Lord of the Whirl. The Leatherworkers Guild. Crafters for the realm-famous Atelier Fen-Il, the Leatherworkers Guild boasts the finest tawers and tanners in all Eorzea. In recent years, the workshop has come to be known for its gava patterns, which outline methods of working and cutting hides, pelts, skins, and furs in a way that honours the elementals within by minimising waste. Apkallu Falls. Named after a failed attempt by an ambitious Gridanian merchant to hatch and breed Apkallus in the Lin, Apkallu Falls is most remembered for serving as a place of meditation for the late Louisoix Leveilleur, Circle of Knowing Archon and hero of Eorzea. Bent Branch Meadows. Once Mughals Gift Mounts was established and its rookery stocked with Ishgard's finest birds, it was not long before an entire settlement had grown up around the stables. The trademark balloon tethered to the main building is actually an Ixaly war vessel claimed by Chocobo Keeps after it became tangled in a nearby tree and was abandoned by its riders. The Sanctum of the Twelve. This skyscraping ivory cathedral was built following the Age of Endless Frost, a dark period in which the realm was overrun with famine and disease, to serve as a place of refuge and respite for all who sought succour. Soon after, however, it fell into ruin and was all but forgotten, until the advent of the Seventh Umbral Era saw need for its rise once again. Little Solace. Little is the solace granted to those sylphs who would voice their opposition to the summoning of the Lord of Leven. Little is the solace bequeathed upon those who would abandon their homes in the Sylphlands and shun their frenzied brethren. Thus, It is only through fraternity that those sylphs may ultimately find solace, however little it may be. Royal Promenade. In times when the Sultan had sole rule over the city-state, the promenade would serve as an ersatz waiting chamber for those petitioners who sought audience with his resplendence in the fragrant chamber. Now, with power in the hands of the syndicate, the round is empty, save for the occasional tryst betwixt young nobles. The Gold Court. A large atrium in the heart of Uldar, the Gold Court's opulence and scale make it a popular meeting place for the city's elite. The plaza was once reserved for the Sultan's private balls, but has since been opened to the public due to a lack of funds to maintain the majestic hanging fountain at her centre. The Jewel of the Desert. The commercial hub of Uldar is organised strategically around the dome-shaped citadel at its centre. Its towering fortifications and protective outer walls bedighted with myriad glass panes and colourful mosaics are visible from arms in all directions and serve as a stark yet dazzling deterrent to would-be besiegers. The ruins of Sildi. The city-states of Uldar and Sildi coexisted for generations until 400 years ago, when bad blood festering betwixt the two sultanates culminated in the War of the Sisters, leaving Sildi a smouldering pile of rubble to be claimed by the shifting desert sands. The subsequent relocation of Uldar placed the city-state nearly directly above her fallen sibling. The Lonely Giant. Local legend claims the Lonely Giant is everything from the ghost of a Sildine sultan to the prototype for a new model of Garlean Machina. Uldan scholars, however, simply believe him a Kurthan Gubu who lost his bearings during the chaos of the Calamity, and after a long journey through the Black Shroud, died of exhaustion upon reaching Thanalan. The Invisible City. Buried under nearly a marm of solid rock, if not for a gaping rent torn open by the Calamity, these ancient ruins may have gone undiscovered for another 1,000 suns. Scholars sent to Highbridge to study the site are currently of a mind that the structures are not a city, but in fact the tomb of one Lalafuto IV, famed Sultan of Belardia. Highbridge. After the Calamity rent eastern Thanalan asunder, one of the first projects commissioned by the Syndicate was the construction of a bridge to span the newly formed chasm and restore the trade route with lands transpontine. The city which has sprung up along its edges is populated almost solely by scholars investigating the nearby ruins of the Invisible City. Woad Whisper Canyon. Little more than a shallow valley but 5 years past, Woad Whisper Canyon was carved into a gaping gorge in a matter of moons after the Calamity drained Bronze Lake and dramatically altered the course of the Nim River. On hot days, labourers from both Summerford Farms and the Skylift will oft take respite in the cool mists of the falls, if not met by bandits. Summerford Farms. When Merlvib Blurfisfin rose to Admiral, one of her first decrees included the clearing of large swaths of land for new Leminson settlements. Summerford Farms and its expansive orange groves is one of those locations. Its name is derived from the man-made crossings required when late spring runoff from Mount Ogamoro causes the Rogue River to swell. The Grey Fleet. Sitting high atop Widow Cliffs on the southeastern coast of Vilbrand, the Grey Fleet was built to harness the constant southerly winds funneled down through the Strait of Merthyr, and use them to power the many mills which grind the region's wheat and full its wool. Hidden Falls. Sheltered on three sides by towering cliffs, Hidden Falls can be found several score yards upstream from where the ageless river empties into the Strait of Merthyr. Taken by its beauty, Uldan plutocrat Gegaruju was quick to purchase the land and construct a stage upon which private performances for the magnate's favoured clients are held. Gullperch Tower. One of three beacons built along the Lanosian coast in the 6th Astral Era, Gullperch Tower is the easternmost, warning ships navigating the Strait of Merthyr of its deadly shallows, while also serving as a watchtower for pirate and Sahagin raids on Bloodshore. The Navigator. Carved centuries past by a famous Rogadin sculptor, This massive stone effigy located in the centre of Aleport's lower plaza serves as a hallowed ground upon which sailors might offer solemn prayers to the Watcher of the Seas before embarking on their journeys across the untamed deep. The Ship Graveyard. For centuries, ships wrecked off the shores of southern Vilbrand have been carried upon currents to this quiet inlet, a timeless reminder of the deep's boundless wrath. So many are the wooden corpses which populate this watery lich yard, it is said that for every hull visible above the waves, a score more slumber beneath. Camp Skull Valley. Now a strategic outpost for the Maelstrom, Camp Skull Valley was once but a circle of tents occupied by a meagre Yellow Jacket unit charged with surveilling the area for kobold incursions. Those beastmen foolish enough to venture down from Ogomoro were slaughtered and beheaded, their skulls put on display as a warning to others. Tidegate. Taking advantage of the chaos left in the Calamity's wake, a large force of Sahagin rose from the seas and laid claim to Hearthstone, a distant Leminson settlement on the far western edge of Lenosha. To prevent any further swells of the Beastman forces, a massive wall was erected between the enemy-occupied lowlands and the allied Skull Valley. Camp Bronze Lake. The formation of great underwater fissures during the Calamity saw nearly half of the water comprising Bronze Lake vanish in the span of a single night. The result was the uncovering of ancient Nemean ruins submerged for thousands of years, most notably the Wanderer's Palace, a temple dedicated to the god Oshon. Thalaus. Though there is no proof to support the claim, rumour has these sun-bleached remains of a long-dead denizen of the deep are those of one of the legendary twin sea serpents believed to have been unleashed by the navigator, Limlane, at the dawn of eras to fill the empty seas, the other being Perikos. Gigiroon's Trading Post. Located on the eastern banks of Bronze Lake, Gigiroon's Trading Post is one of two makeshift markets peddling baubles and trinkets to those brave enough to venture that deep into kobold lands. The other is Memaroon's Trading Post, run by Gigiroon's estranged sibling, to whom the stubborn Kickern merchant hasn't spoken in 20 summers. The Floating City of Nim. Suspended high above the foothills of Mount Ogomoro is the Floating City of Nim, central hub of a lost civilization which prospered on Vilbrand during the 5th Astral Era. The accepted theory as to how the city was torn from the realm involves the over-aspecting of corrupted wind crystals, a phenomenon witnessed late in the 6th Astral Era. Camp Overlook. Manned by the meanest shite-kicking unit in the whole damn Maelstrom, Camp Overlook serves as the base of operations for the Red Swallows, a privateer levy tasked with the surveillance of kobold activity in Outer Lenosha and along the slopes of Mount Ogomoro. Ugamaro Mines. The brilliant rainbow-coloured hues that permeate the otherwise bistre slopes of Ogomoro are a result of the endless flow of toxic slum gullions streaming forth from the labyrinthine warrens that make up Ugamaro Mines. As more kobolds arrive on the surface each day, there is a scramble to construct new forges to accommodate them. The Hermit's Hovel. While few have ever seen the lord of this humble hideaway which rests precariously on the edge of an unscalable precipice, let alone obtained his permission for entering the premises, that has not stopped travellers from taking full advantage of the respite the location offers, whether it be a dip in the steaming pools or a few bells' slumber on the soft goose-feather bed. The Carline Canopy. Nestled cosily within the inn known as the Roost lies the relaxing Carline Canopy, a haven for those seeking a respite from travel's travails or questing's quandaries. For Gaga's gift, the towering water wheel found outside the cafe powers the saws and lathes of the Carpenters Guild and is widely considered Gridania's grandest architectural achievement. The Lancers Guild. Founded by legendary wood whaler Captain Mistal, the Lancers Guild doubles as a headquarters for those who keep the peace within Gridania and the greater peace without. It is to these whaling barracks that people come with matters whose resolution requires a polearm's edge, and justice meted out to those who have wronged the forest or forest-born. The Bannock. Built around the stump of a fallen heavens pillar, the Bannock serves as training grounds for Order of the Twin Adder initiates. There are several theories regarding the origin of the area's name, some claiming it is taken from the hardtack issued to Grand Company recruits, others that it is derived from the training stump's resemblance to those self-same rations. Hawk Manor. Long frowned upon by the people of Gridania as a symbol of excess, the Seedseers would finally submit to pressure from the citizenry, selling the deed to the manor to Lady Amandine of House Dartencourt. The word hawk is of ancient Pajali origin and means to speak without words. The Guardian Tree. Having seen over 1,000 summers, the Guardian Tree is purportedly the oldest arbor in all the Black Shroud and home to the Great One, an elder elemental who watches and presides over the forest's denizens. The fruit borne by the tree resembles a plum and is sought after across the 3 great continents for its curative properties. Rainbow Bridge. When struck by the rare sunbeams which happen to penetrate to the thick canopy of the Black Shroud, the veil of fine mist created by one of the East Vein's myriad cataracts projects a brilliant rainbow which appears to connect the river's east and west banks. The grotto hidden behind the veil houses one of the forest's most sacred locations, Lifemend Stump. The Seedbed. Illuminated in the soft glow of countless moonspores, the seedbed is an ancient arbor-turned-nursery used by the sylphs to grow and incubate their offspring, also known as podlings. Boscaran's Druthers. The Druthers is run by a disenfranchised ex-sentry-turned tavern keep and welcomes all manner of folk, from upstanding to unsavoury, so long as they follow Boscaran Strongarm's simple rules of etiquette. Sit down, forget your worries, and savour your ale. South Shroud Landing. Constructed by Highwind Skyways to serve as a landing for cargo airships, this location was quickly abandoned when the Imperial presence in the area became too large to ignore. Now the site is used as a makeshift market where bandits and poachers peddle their ill-gotten wares far from the eyes of the law. Earth's Gift. Ancient writings tell that in exchange for her lifeblood, Lady Earth was able to seal the dark divinity Odin in a crystalline prison beneath a bubbling wellspring. To honour her sacrifice, the land upon which she drew her last breath still bears her name. Quarry Mill. Once a deal had been struck between the Gelmorans and the Elementals, allowing their return to the forest surface, the Elezen began unearthing large quantities of boulders to build the foundations of their new city, Gridania. The water wheels of Quarry Mill were raised to power the hammers which rendered the massive stones into workable blocks. Ixaly Logging Grounds. The Ixal have never taken well their banishment from the Black Shroud, and to this day continue to fell the hoary sentinels growing on the forest's outskirts. Too heavy to drag back to their settlements in Natalan or faraway Zelphatol, the ill-gotten lumber is tied to balloons buoyed with Ixaly air stones and flown to the Beast Tribe's homeland under the cover of night. Fallen Neuralink. Coined by the learned men of Garland Ironworks, these massive rings were used to dampen spiritual energies, preventing the focusing of power required to wield magics. No less than 5, each measuring hundreds of yards across, were required to keep the Bahamut silent for 3 full eras, but even then they proved insufficient. Alder Springs. Once a vast grove of giant alders, the flames of the calamity reduced the area to a charred graveyard, leaving nothing of the ancient halt but its name. Castrum Marinum. Situated atop the roiling Rotano Sea between Aldenard and the eastern coast of Vilbrand, Castrum Marinum serves as the southernmost outpost for the Garlean Empire's 14th Legion. The cohort stationed on this man-made floating island is primarily tasked with the resupplying of Imperial Army cohorts deployed in the Lanusia and Thanalan theatres. Vesper Bay. a bustling port city strategically situated on the western coast of Thanalan and maintained using funds generously provided by Syndicate Chairman Lolorito. Vesper Bay serves as a gateway in and out of Sultanate-controlled lands. The colossal bronze statue in the main plaza is said to be an exact likeness of said chairman, when viewed from afar. Blackbrush Station. A marvel of modern innovation, the steam engine has transformed the mining industry, increasing efficiency and profits thrice over. It has also led to the transformation of what was once a thinly manned aetheryte outpost into a thriving crossroads of labour and commerce, a new pillar to support the thriving Ul'Dan economy. Gate of Nald. One of 3 main portals accessible by the general populace, the Gate of Nald is wide enough for 2 fully burdened chocobo carriages to enter abreast and still leave room for the flanking gate guards. Her Royal Majesty Nanamo Ulnamo has commanded that the portcullis remain open night and day, so as to welcome all who would partake of Ul'Dar's wonders. The Burning Wall. Once an unscalable precipice severing eastern Thanalan from the Grand Wake, the Burning Wall earned its name for the deep red glow it would emit each evening as the sun set. Toppled by the calamity, that cliff no longer exists. In its place, a queer forest of crystalline sentinels and malformed creatures shunned by nature itself. The Golden Bazaar. Once a waypoint for traders making the journey between Britannia and Ul'Dar, the rise of settlements such as Camp Drybone and Highbridge have all but rendered the once prospering hamlet a ghost town. Rumours of mithril deposits in the nearby mountains and treasure in the ruins of the Invisible City, however, may work to rekindle this dying ember. Thal's Respite. Overseer of wealth in the afterlife, proper obeisance to the trader Thal is required for those who wish to take belongings accumulated in this world to the hereafter. Thal's Respite is oft used by stout devotees of the Order of Nald Thal as a place of fasting and prayer, but its distance from Ul'Dar prevents all but the most affluent from making the journey. Nald's Reflection. Overseer of wealth and commerce upon the corporeal plane, it is believed that through fervent worship of the trader Nald, one will reap immeasurable fortune in one's living years. Prince and pauper alike once made pilgrimages to this remote place of prayer in search of prosperity, until, that is, Milvaneth Sacrarium opened a new, toll-based temple within Ul'Dar. Zaharak. Loosely translated as Land of Perseverance, Zaharak is a forward stronghold for the Amalja host based in Zanrak. The Beast Tribe believes the scorched plains of Thanalan to be hallowed ground, blessed by the cleansing flames of their primal deity Ifrit, and as such are intent on driving from the land all whom they deem invaders. The Sagoli Desert. According to the Sons of Saint Koinak, the Sagoli Desert was once a verdant sea of lush plains capable of sustaining great civilizations, as is evidenced by the ruins recently discovered in the area. How such a place evolved into a lifeless desert remains a mystery, but recent disaster tells us an ancient calamity is the likely culprit. The Sunken Temple of Karn. Most scholars of ancient Beladian civilization claim this twisting labyrinth of complex chambers to be a place of worship dedicated to the sun goddess, Eorzea. Recent diggings, however, have uncovered older chambers buried beneath the new, containing relics not of the 6th Astral Era, suggesting that the temple may have been built by a different people. Minotaur Marm. Local legend has that long ago, a young goat herd leading his pack to water at Forgotten Springs was set upon and chased a full marm through these caves by a minotaur. There has yet to be a second sighting of the creature, but the stories are enough to frighten away most who would consider passage through this trading post used by the 77 caravans. East Watchtower. To power their legions of war machina, the Garleans require a steady supply of the ether-based fuel known as ceruleum. Blue Fog housing the largest deposit in Eorzea, the Empire has begun their own mining operation but a stone's throw from the Allied refineries, heightening tensions in the area and prompting the construction of 2 watchtowers. Ceruleum Pipeline. Even before airships and engines were commonplace in Eorzea, Amagina and Sons Mineral Concern recognized the potential value of ceruleum and laid claim to nearly all of the untapped deposits in northern Thanalan. In an ironic twist, for many years before the Gallian invasion, the concern's biggest customer was, in fact, the Imperial army. Blue fog. Though abundant on the northern continent of Ilsabard, only a handful of cerulean deposits have ever been discovered on Aldenard, the largest being buried under the Sea of Spires in northern Thanalan. Ceruleum is a highly unstable substance and will begin to evaporate when in contact with air, resulting in the bluish haze from which this area earns its name. Raubarn's Push. In the final days of the 6th Astral Era, the ceruleum fields of northern Thanalan proved to be one of the most hotly contested areas in all Eorzea, with the Empire amassing a giant host outside of Blue Fog to seize control of the local fuel refineries. Though outnumbered 3-1, Raubarn and his army succeeded in pushing back the enemy. Abandoned Amagina Mithril Mine. The discovery of mithril in a small copper mine in Blue Fog triggered the Great Rush, which saw would-be prospectors flock to the Sea of Spires in search of quick and easy fortune. The veins that ran through the mountains, however, were not deep, and it was but 10 summers before the mines ceased to yield the precious metal, forcing many to abandon their claims. The Nail. As is described in the Enchiridion, to ensure the realm of man did not drift apart from the firmament, Halone struck the nail through both, ever binding the two. And though assailed on all sides by great metal shards fallen from the lesser moon Dalamud's crust, the ancient peak remained standing, a testament to the land's life force. The Observatorium. 300 years ago, Ishgardian astrologian Adonal the Younger convinced the Holy See that he could predict the comings and goings of the Dravanian horde by studying the movements of the heavens, and thus secured funding for the construction of the first dicasterial observatorium of ethereal and astrological phenomena and its grand astroscope. The Frozen Fang. In years past, the hot alpine summers would have seen this fallen Dravanian outflyer blown with maggots and reduced to bones in a matter of days. Now, in the endless winter wrought by the calamity, the carcass rests in the permafrost under a thick blanket of snow, perfectly preserved since the day he was pierced through the heart by a ballista. The Holy See of Ishgard. For the past 1,000 years, Ishgard has waged a bloody war with the dragons of Dravania. To fend off the enemy horde, a complex web of defences, magical and corporeal, has been added piecemeal to the city proper's outer walls, transforming her into an impenetrable bastion, while at the same time isolating her and her people from the outside world. Boulder Downs. Before the calamity, Boulder Downs was a vast sloped lea littered with moraine deposited by realm-swallowing glaciers long receded. The rain of debris that accompanied the fall of Dalamud, however, transformed the landscape into a frozen wasteland pocked with gaping impact craters and peculiar dark matter formations. The Fury's Gaze. A place holy to all Ishgardians. It is believed that when a man stands within this hidden grotto, the Fury herself will reach deep into the darkest recesses of his soul and lay out his sins before him, allowing the man to repent those failings. Monument Tower was built nearby to protect this hallowed ground from the taint of dragons and heretics. Snowcloak. The bitter cold which swept over the Kurthus Highlands following the calamity did not only blanket the region in snow and ice, but transformed the water of Twin Pools and the Swift Run into a mountainous flow of ice, a flow which has slowly crept through the western Kurthus Highlands and now has completely engulfed Gargoyle Crossing, preventing passage. Camp Dragonhead. Its name taken from a rocky outcropping said to be the head of a Dravanian king turned to stone by the almighty hand of Halone. This outpost acts as the Kurthus Central Highlands' southernmost line of defence for the Holy See, tasked with fending off Ixaly raids from Natalan, skirmishes by heretic factions, and the occasional Yeti scare. The Steel Vigil. One of 4 citadel watchtowers built along the Sea of Clouds, the Steel Vigil warned the Holy See of aerial attacks for centuries before being razed and gutted by the Dravanian horde and their vile commander Svara. Now only the outer walls remain, leaving a bitter reminder of the dragon's destructive power. Castrum Sentry. Castrum Sentry was erected with material salvaged from the ruins of Castrum Novum, the Garlean Empire's first major outpost in Eorzea, constructed in the final year of the 6th Astral Era by 7th Legion legatus Nael Vandanus. It houses several cerulean mining pits, a magitech manufactory, and the Phantom Train, used to transport ordnance to outlying Castra. The Crystal Tower. As if somehow beckoned forth from its hypergeal prison by the events of the Calamity, this skyscraping spire now commands the Mordonan horizon. Through their research, the Sons of St. Koinak have determined that the monolith, also known as Circus Tower, was constructed to collect and store the endless energies of the sun. Wraith Frost. The fall of the Agrius into Silvertier Falls not only drained the magnificent multi-tiered lake, but instantly crystallized the majority of the region's flora, a result of mass quantities of cerulean fuel reacting with ether released upon Midgardsormr's death. What remains is a brilliant yet dead landscape akin to a twisted garden pocked with blooming geodes. The Keeper of the Lake. Maintaining a silent vigil over Silvertier Lake, the Keeper is wrought from the wreckage of the Imperial flagship, the Agrius, and the entangled remains of Midgardsormr. For many religious and mythological enthusiasts, it stands as proof of the existence of the gods. For most people, however, it serves as a grim reminder of the horrific power of Garlemald.